All right, so the UFC are back. They are back in London town. They're back at the O2 Arena for the second time in 4 months. And I'm back. I'm back for what feels like the second time in 4 months. And the reason why I'm back is I just wanted to share some words about why I'm excited for Saturday night. Tom Aspinall against Curtis Blaydes. But before I do, my name is Rahul J. Chan. This is the Battle Camp. Thank you very much for joining me. If you're new to the channel, please do consider subscribing. And if you're old to the channel and you haven't already subscribed, what the hell are you waiting for? Hurry up and subscribe, man. We're trying to hit goals here. Even though I barely make videos anymore. We're trying to hit goals here. Now, look, man, I'm not trying to sit here for 20 minutes, half an hour talking about each individual fight because, look, the card is very, very stacked, right? There's a lot to be excited about. So I just want to give you guys little nuggets of my opinion about what I think might happen on Saturday night. And then we can reconvene on Sunday and look back at what I thought might happen and agree that I was way off and totally wrong. Because when it comes to MMA, you need to expect the unexpected, right? So let's talk about the main event. Curtis Blaydes against Tom Aspinall. So look, Tom Aspinall is a guy that has passed every single test that has been put in front of him since he's been in the UFC with flying colours. I feel as though Curtis Blaydes is his toughest test to date, simply because Curtis Blaydes is the most experienced fighter that he's fought. And Curtis Blaydes has been in there with the best opposition out of everyone that Tom Aspinall has fought. Curtis Blaydes has fought ex-champions. He's fought the current champion. He's fought multiple title contenders. And he just genuinely is the best heavyweight in terms of rankings that Tom Aspinall has been in there with. So it's a very, very good fight in terms of it's a good marker for us to see just where Tom Aspinall's at. And Tom Aspinall's progression throughout the UFC reminds me that of a boxer, right? Because when a boxer's kind of getting more and more experience, getting more fights under the belt, they tend to get opposition that are good at different things, but not overall as good as the prospect in question, right? So, for example, when AJ was rising up the ranks, you know, he might have fought a guy that is a good inside fighter but doesn't have power, or he might have fought a guy that is a good fighter on the back foot but is really slow, like things of that nature, right? And Tom Aspinall has seen loads of different looks in his progression up the ranks, and the last fight that he had against Volkov was a stand-up fighter, a guy that is a kickboxer by trade, and it's a guy that was going to pose a threat on the feet, and Tom Aspinall passed that with flying colours because he's the one that landed most of the strikes, got the fight to the ground, and got the submission. Now, Curtis Blaydes is obviously a guy that is a strong grappler, a strong wrestler, and he's probably a stronger wrestler than Aspinall, but he has parts of his games that aren't as good as Tom Aspinall, and that is his stand-up, that is his movement, that is his speed. And because of that, I feel as though Curtis Blaydes won't have enough. I don't feel as though Curtis Blaydes mixes up his game well enough to cause his wrestling to be a threat to Aspinall. I feel as though Aspinall will be able to manage the distance, control where the fight is, and I feel as though Blaydes will find it difficult to find opportunities to secure a takedown, and he'll find himself in a position where he needs to impose himself on the fight, and that will lead to desperate attempts to take Tom Aspinall down, right? Personally, I'd like to see Curtis Blaydes get an opportunity to take Aspinall down because I just want to see how Aspinall reacts to it, right? I'd like to see Blaydes take him down and see Blaydes hold him against the fence because I want to see how Aspinall deals with that kind of pressure. But personally, I feel as though Tom Aspinall is a better, more rounded mixed martial artist, and I feel as though he's part of this kind of new breed of heavyweight, sort of like Cyril Gane, someone that is big, strong, powerful, muscular, but moves like someone much lighter than someone of that size should move. Do you know what I mean? And I feel as though Tom Aspinall will have enough to beat Curtis Blaydes and really announce himself as a heavyweight and put himself in the conversation with the Miocics, the Cyril Ganes, the John Joneses of this world, and obviously our current champion, Francis Ngannou. Now, like I said, I'm not going to run through the whole card. I'm just going to give little kind of points about why I'm excited about each fight, right? I'm not excited at all about Jack Hermansson against Chris Curtis. I would have been if Darren Till managed to make it to fight, but obviously he got injured, so I'm going to skip over that. Paddy Pimblett against Jordan Levitt. So Jordan Levitt is a guy that I didn't know very much about. I saw him obviously win his last fight. I saw him twerking. That's how he kind of got on my radar, not because I'm a fan of the twerking itself, just because he twerked. He was quite a good twerker, to be honest, for a bloke. Pause. But what I really liked about the guy is I heard him on the Ariel Helwani show when this fight got announced, and I'd never heard him speak before. And the way he kind of carried himself throughout the interview, you know, just giving a bit of insight to his background, etc. I thought to myself, this seems like a nice enough guy. And Paddy Pimblett is a guy whose celebrity status, his commercial success precedes his, in my opinion, and I'm saying this respectfully, precedes his ability in the octagon. Now, Levitt is a guy that doesn't possess the power on the feet, in my opinion, that should cause Paddy Pimblett any troubles. And I'd say Paddy Pimblett's strong suit is his ground game, his grappling and jiu-jitsu. And that's where Jordan Levitt's strengths lie. But I feel as though Paddy Pimblett is just will be physically stronger than Jordan Levitt, bigger and stronger. And I feel as though Paddy Pimblett should win this. And just a side note on Paddy Pimblett, like I haven't seen anything from him in his couple of UFC fights that he's had, and prior to that, to be honest, to suggest that he is genuinely a top 10 level UFC talent. So the longer he can get these type of fights, the better for him, in my opinion. I don't know. I just haven't seen the progression from him that I have from the guy in the main event, Tom Aspinall, you know? So that's kind of all I really have to say about that fight. Krinov against Gustafson is interesting to me because this is a good way of seeing exactly where Gustafson is at, right? Because if you go back to the Gustafson that fought John Jones, and I was looking at this earlier actually, that fight was back in 2013, but in my head it feels like it was like 3 years ago. Do you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't feel as though it was nearly 10 years ago, but that fight, that Gustafson, if him in them days is looking at the light heavyweight division now, it's almost like it's just a matter of time till Gustafson becomes champion. You know, like, do you remember the way he just dismantled and destroyed Glover Teixeira, our ex-champion? Like, the level of competition in the light heavyweight division currently would be no match for that Gustafson. Now, we know, sorry, that why am I messing his name up? Gustafson isn't what he was back then, right? But the question is, how far removed is he from that? How far over the hill is he from his prime? That's what we're going to find out on Saturday night, because Krylov is a solid light heavyweight. He's like, to me, he's like Hermansson. He's not a guy that is ever going to threaten to win the championship, but he's a guy that is capable of beating a top 15 light heavyweight, you know? So the prime Gustafson would have dispatched of Krylov with ease. And Gustafson's had a weird sort of last 3 or 4 years. He's been very inactive. He fought at light heavyweight against Verdum a couple of years ago, which seemed a bit random. He was going to fight at light heavyweight against Ben Rothwell until that fight got canned. So this will be a really good marker to see where Gustafson is at, mentally, obviously, in terms of, you know, how hungry, how motivated is he for it, and physically. It will be a good way to see, is he still close to what he once was? That's why I'm really interested to see Gustafson back. He's a guy that I had a lot of time and respect for back in the day. He's 35, you know, he's not old for a light heavyweight, given that the heavier, bigger guys can usually go on into their mid-30s and be in their prime still. So it's not like he's way over the hill from an age point of view, but it's just whether all of the years of competing has caught up to him, you know? So I'll be really interested to see what happens there. Molly McCann against Hannah Goldie. Look, I don't know who Hannah is, right? I know obviously who Molly McCann is, and I'm really glad and happy for Molly McCann with all of the kind of fame and the kind of just the fruits of her labor. Like, she's been around for years. She's been a name in the UK European MMA circuit for years. She's been in the UFC for years. I think she must have had about 5 or 6 fights in the UFC by now. Let me just quickly check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. She's had 8 fights in the UFC. Again, she's a fighter that isn't going to threaten to ever win the title, but she's a fun, entertaining fighter. She's always in scraps, and she had her moment in London 4 months ago, and she'll be looking to recreate that. And for her sake, let's hope she's able to do that. Do you know what I mean? I don't know anything about Hannah Goldie. There's nothing about this fight that has made me want to do any research about Hannah Goldie. It is what it is, right? It's Molly McCann's opportunity to fight in London again. One fight that I'm really kind of okay. So look, the next fight, the opening fight for the main card, Paul Craig against Volkan Ozdemir. Now, I don't get why Paul Craig isn't in the conversation the same way Anthony Smith is, the same way Jan Blachowicz, and I know Jan Blachowicz and Glover Teixeira are slightly different because, both ex champions, etc. But there's certain fighters that are in the conversation for the light heavyweight title, and Paul Craig just seems so far removed from it. And to me, it doesn't make sense. I don't get why Paul Craig isn't in that conversation. He's been on a good run recently. The light heavyweight division isn't exactly the most stacked division in the world, and it's a division that is in desperate need of new blood, right? And Paul Craig can provide that. He beat Hill, obviously, and then they went for a dance together later that night. Krinov was his last opponent, who's obviously back on this card against Gustafson. So yeah, he's just a guy that I feel as though should be in this conversation. And Volkan Ozdemir is an opponent that used to be in the conversation. Obviously, he challenged for the title once, and it feels as though he's kind of in the decline now. And this is his opportunity to take some shine off of, take some of that shine away from Paul Craig that Paul Craig has had over the last 3 or 4 fights. To me, obviously, Paul Craig will want to close the distance, get the fight to the ground, and Ozdemir is more comfortable on the feet. This was going to be a challenge for Paul Craig to try and get the fight to the ground, but Ozdemir isn't a guy that's known for his defensive wrestling, so that's an avenue he can definitely exploit. It's just whether he's able to close the difference before getting hit in the face by Volkan one-time Ozdemir. I feel as though Paul Craig will have enough to win this fight, but it's definitely it's not a foregone conclusion. It's not a walk in the park for Paul Craig. But I expect him to come out the other end. And once he does come out the other end, I expect him to be in a meaningful fight. I'm not saying that Paul Craig is definitely 100% good enough to be the champion. But what I am saying is, why isn't he in the conversation at least, The prelims, again, they kind of sprinkled with a load of UK names, UK names. Just trying to see if there's any Irish people, but yeah, UK names. And again, I'm excited to watch the prelims as well, because obviously these are people that I've been aware of and watched fight for the last few years. One guy that I haven't watched fight for the last few years, the first time I saw him fight was at UFC London, but funnily enough, I've been aware of him for like 4 years now or something. 5 years is obviously Muhammad Makayev. Like, there's been talk about this guy for literally years. And what really, really, really impressed me with his UFC debut is, you see, like, people always talk about the UFC jitters. You get to step up and, you feel like you're physically prepared, but you're not. The one thing that you can never prepare for is being mentally and psychologically prepared for making the big jump up, the big step up to the big show, and the kind of dealing with those nerves, etc., and that's one thing that really impressed me by Makayev about his debut in the UFC, because there was a lot of back and forth between him and his opponent in UFC London 4 months ago, and he dealt with it with ease. Not just the fight, just the whole occasion of it. And he believes he's a top 15 fighter now. And he talks like it. He backs it up. He's confident, and I just want to see how he performs in his second time out. I have very high hopes for this guy. Aside from Makayev, we've got Mason Jones, who was obviously ex-Cage Warriors champion. He's had a indifferent start to his UFC career. He lost his debut, then he had a no contest, then he's won a fight. He's fighting again. He's not been as active as he'd probably want to be. I think the last time he fought was, I don't want to make this up. Let me just check. Last time Mason Jones fought, I know it wasn't this year. I know he ain't fought this year. October in 2021. So yeah, it's been like 10 months, 9 months or whatever. So it'll be interesting to see where he's at. Mark Casey, obviously, he's been around for years. He won his last fight. He's had a difficult spell, so it'll be interesting to see what happens with him. But where I want to end this is my guy, Jai Herbert. He's one of, I feel sorry for him. He's had a bit of a baptism of fire since he's been in the UFC. He's had 4 fights. He's lost 3, but he's been in there with difficult opponents, man. And he's had moments where he's looked really good in each of those fights, you know. He's never in a boring fight. I really like him. I like his persona. I like the way he conducts himself. I really enjoyed his post-fight interview when he won that one fight. That was back in October. Hold that, the way he kept saying it. I'm just a fan. I really, really, really hope he wins, man. I think he deserves it. But yeah, that's what I think about Saturday night. Let me know what you guys think about the card on Saturday. To those of you that watch my videos regularly, well, you can't really watch them regularly because I don't post them very regularly. But I suppose I just quickly want to say to you lot, man, apologies for the absence. I wish I had an excuse. I wish I had a reason. It's just laziness and lack of motivation, if I'm honest with you guys. Like this week, Nate Diaz against Khamzat Chimaev got announced, and I had every intention to record a video about it, and I've had opportunities to do it, and I just chose not to. And you know, half of winning is just showing up, man. You just got to show up, and I haven't been showing up. So if I don't show up, how can I show out? You know, it's my own fault. But if you've been here for a while, thank you for sticking with me. I will try to be more consistent and make more videos if you guys enjoy them, obviously. And yeah, you know what? My goal for this year was to get to like 1,500 subscribers. It's not going to happen now, and that's my own fault. But I want to at least get to 1,000. I think I'm good enough for that. Some of these guys that have more than 1,000 subscribers on the channel are fucking shit. Let's be honest. Let's call a spade a spade, you know? I know I'm better than a lot of these guys. No, I'm only joking. But anyway, look, put your comments below. Let me know what you guys think. Give me your predictions. Give me your views on my views, and then I'll give you my views on your views and on my views, and then we can keep it going until we fall out with each other. But yeah, enjoy the fights on Saturday night. I'm not going to be there. I didn't even bother trying to get tickets this time because the fast the last time with all the bots buying up all the tickets and sticking them on secondary markets, hiking the prices up. I'm not playing this game. I'm not even going to the pub. I'm going to sit at home and watch it in front of the TV, not even with a beer. I'm going to have me a cold can of Coke Zero, watch and enjoy the fights, and then get an early night. That's what my plan is. Let's see if I'm able to execute it. Anyway, catch you guys on Sunday when I will be recording a reaction. So, hey guys, hit the notification bell. My American accent is horrible, but it did get a little bit better recently. I went to the Dominican Republic for a week, and I made friends with some Americans, and I was like doing quite a good accent. But now I've come home, I've lost it. I've lost the accent.